in this video, it's going to be pretty short, but I am going to show you how to wire up a two-step and Transbrake off the same switch. In this rig, I don't want it on the steering wheel because I have to get out fast. So like if I end up in a hole upside down, I run a removable steering wheel because it makes it a lot easier to get in and out of this thing. So if I want to chip and kick this out of my way, I throw it in the back, and I don't only want any wires hooked up to this with buttons or anything. Yeah, it would be easy so I can hold it. And this being an off-road rig, Transbrake is kind of funny to have because it's a drag race thing, but for launches and stuff, I think it was going to be nice. And then I don't have to sit and foot brake it when I'm trying to two-step and build boost. I can just bury my foot in the pedal and it's going to bring it up to the RPM I set off the two-step, and then the Transbrake's going to hold reverse and the reverse band and first gear together at the same time, and as soon as I let off the button, it'll release reverse, so it'll take off in first. Or the benefit of this Extreme Automatics billet reverse manual valve body, because it's a 1+2 kit. So the 1+2 means I can Transbrake in first or second gear, which is fantastic. Because I'll build enough boost, like if I'm running low range in this, in just one of the cases, if I run low range, I can actually take off in second under full boost, because I will probably set my two-step about 3,000 RPM, and I'll show you that in the tune software. Hopefully, if I can get the screen grab to work. Anyway, I didn't want to be bouncing around with two different switches to have both of those, to have to hold two at the same time. So what I'm doing is setting up a push button here. This is just an Amazon push start button. So it holds enough amperage for what I'm doing, but both of these don't take a lot of load. But for what I want to do is I want to be able to run one button for both Transbrake and two-step at the same time. I have other stuff for reverse to set the Transbrake up, because with this one, the only way to make reverse work with this Transbrake and this 4L80 is you have to using reverse, you have to use the Transbrake solenoid. So I have it wired through my Switch Pros to trigger my reverse lights, and it triggers that, which there's also an indicator in the dash that I know it's on. And then I put the neutral safety switch back in this to trigger the reverse marker light, so it backfeeds will turn that light on as well, which triggers my backup lights. And so when I put my shifter in reverse, I actually hit the neutral safety switch, so it triggers my Transbrake solenoid, so I don't have to fumble around to hit a button to use reverse. I can go from first to reverse right now and not have to hit anything. That neutral safety switch is set up to do that. The Switch Pros has one, like I said, that is just so if I need to not hold it, it's a push on off. I don't have it set as a momentary button. I can run that as well. And this will actually be a third way to run the Transbrake, and it's just all 12-volt power at that point, so it's not going to hurt anything. But like I said, I want to be able to run both two-step or anti-lag, however you want to call it, and my Transbrake off the same button, so I can launch with both of them. And as you saw, there's a priming switch on here as well, like a nitrous switch. And there's two other things. There's just one's 12-volt cigarette lighter and one's USB ports, just because I can put my phone in here and charge it. The reason why I'm running an arming switch is I'm running a backup waterproof relay for the Transbrake to trigger the switch, so that this arming switch will kill the switch power to that relay, but the actual push button switch for my Transbrake, the computer wants to see a negative ground trigger source. So this is what this button is. This button for two-step is going to be a ground. Well, I'm going to go off both sides. One, it'll be ground in, and then the other side that it's supposed to be jumping the power or close the circuit will be a ground as well. So there's no power on this button, which is perfectly fine. But the ground from this will trigger the relay, so it'll click the relay properly, and then the second leg off the engaging side will go on and into the computer on the input, and I got to pick the right wire for that. So then it'll work both, and that's with the priming switch and arming switch on for the Transbrake. If I just want to do rolling two-step or rolling into an obstacle, not touch my Transbrake, that's the whole idea. I can kill this solenoid. I can hit the kill switch. It will kill the switch power to this relay, which I have it here just in case I need to get to it, but it'll kill the power to the relay that this ground triggers to hit the Transbrake. because I don't need to run it when I'm trying to roll through an obstacle, because if I hit it, it'll lock everything up, because it'll hold multiple gears at once and hold the transmission in place. Because that also builds a lot of heat, but for takeoff is why I want it, so that's why there's a priming arming switch. And then I can just bring this thing up to the chip, or however you want to call it, so it's bouncing off rev limit, or the secondary rev limiter, and shooting fire, because it's going to be pulling ignition timing and adding a bunch of fuel, so it'll spool the turbo and make boost. And I can just sit here, and as soon as I let off the button, I will hit that down. I'll probably end up grabbing gears. I'll go from first into second, and then if there's enough room in the straightaway, I'll be bouncing into third. And where I've hit this before, I don't have enough room. I gotta start slowing down, so I don't even get down to fourth. All right, so this is a 3-pin, so you actually need to put ground to this, because I'm gonna run power through these, but what the power is gonna be the switch power for the relay. And what this does is there's gonna be 2 switches that activate this relay. This priming switch is gotta be on, so this will go into here, and then they'll have power, 12-volt power coming into this. So when this is kicked on, it'll also trigger this red light on top of this to let me know it's on. I'll know it's on because that's flip forward as well. I put the grounds here. I definitely could have located them differently, but I just put a self-tapper into the shift tower because this shifter I built is welded to the cage, and the cage is grounded through everything else. So the cage it's grounded to the cage. I'm putting all the wires I need to get to right here if I have to adjust or play with this or fix anything. So with how this is a 5-pin relay, the center pin doesn't get used. It's for an extra operation that I'm not going to do. The red wire off of it is the 12-volt in. The blue wires to the signal or whatever lights or your accessory. So that one's going to go to my Transbrake. And then the black's ground. So this is going to run up and it'll go to the open side. So this will go up around. This will go to the open side of the activation, actual push button, momentary button. And this will also have a secondary ground that'll come off of this. That's going to go all the way to the ECU on the input and output setup, but on the input, and it'll be an input to trigger the 2-step. So those are a ground signal. This white is a signal, 12-volt signal wire. So normally your switch will activate this and then it triggers that, because most of the time you run power to this and ground them, and then you run power to it. Well, to kill it, I'm putting this on this kill switch here, so I know it's on. So this will come to here, it'll loop up off a spade connector, and then this post here, this post here will have 12-volt to it. So when this is on, it'll finish the circuit here, turn this light on because this ground will ground it properly, and then it'll turn power on, so it'll trigger this, and then this is ready to get hit once this gets ground. So when I hit this button, it'll be good. But when I hit this button and this is off, this won't trigger because there's no ground source for this relay to activate, even if this is still getting power. So it's just a backwards way of doing it, but that's how I want to do it, to make one button work 2 different things and just be able to shut it off and do rolling anti-lag. Strip this back about 3/8 of an inch or so. There's probably a depth will tell you exactly where it needs to be. So twist the wires up so they are nice and tight. Alright, so I have a small ground black wire to come through, so it'll be up behind these just to keep it tight. And then be careful if you're using these type of buttons and using a screw, or these that have a screw terminal. The washers are magic and they're Houdini like. They like to fly around and not go where you want them to. So be very careful with them. And just like that, the screw is gone. So these are going to go to the same terminal. This is on the open side. So once you hit the button, it'll close, and then they'll get their ground signal properly. Anyway, so I'll strip this next wire. This one is going to be coming from my power distribution block. Alright, going handheld a little bit, so the wires are all tied up. I'm going to finish running them down there. I got them half loomed together. They're going to go up the rest of my wiring harness. Just this is how everything laid out in this. To make it fit, and then I just keep adding circuits. I wish I would have had ideas on exactly what everything is. So this entire loom will come up this main artery, basically, is what it is. And it'll come up inside the fuse panel here. The powers will come into here with an inline fuse. The ground will go over to input-output harness that's on the Haltech main harness still. And the yellow is actually going to stop. It's power from the Transbrake and power from the neutral safety switch to the switch and back from the switch, and they come in and tie up. But I'm just going to tie into that to trigger off of the push button, and then we'll go from there. All right, so wiring's done. It's all tied up. Put some Thomas clamps and ran it around just so it's super clean off the side of the shifter. And it's kind of dark in here, so I'm turning my up, might get a little dirty. And then just zip tied it all up, cleaned it. I need to build a box and just protect this wiring, but I didn't want it underneath the cab, and this way I can get into it and fix any wires if I need to. And then tied it to the input side of the Haltech computer to trigger, and we'll take it outside so I can show you how everything works. With the Transbrake, Alright, so those were just a couple quick shots of two-step. Really just had one, just two-step by itself. He had a couple, he did a rolling two-step. Had my dad drive in just so I could film. But what I was also doing, because how I have that set up like I showed you in the wiring, I did a toggle switch to arm my Transbrake, and it triggered that secondary relay. So what he was doing, because as soon as you hit that arming switch and the button, it does two-step and Transbrake, so it's full on launch control. So it brought it up on boost, which I think I have it set at 3,000 RPM right now. So when he hit that, it was holding first and reverse at the same time, which is how the Transbrake works, which builds a lot of heat in the transmission, but that's beside the point because I have a big cooler to take care of that. But arming switch and hit that button, it runs as a ground, triggers the relay, and then it triggers the ECU for two-step, and then the ground for the relay is for the Transbrake. So you hit that, and as soon as you're off, that thing launches like you're dumping the clutch. But the cool thing with the Transbrake, all the gear mesh is locked in, and you're not bouncing off a gear or anything like that, so you're not going to really hurt anything. You can still break drive lines and stuff like that, especially running these big tires. But the cool thing with launching under boost like that is it has enough horsepower to get them to break loose, and they just spin. And having boggers in the back on this thing just throws material and dirt and snow everywhere. And I should have got some overhead stuff because I could have seen how far in the air it was actually throwing the snow. But that's all here and there. So that's how I did my two-step setup on this Haltech. If you guys have any more questions about this rig, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching. You have a good one. Have a good night whenever you're watching this. Goodbye.